Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what class you are. Today's lecture is going to be all about line. Usually in class, I provide you with a handout and I already have a video demonstration prepared for you. But since we are not in class and we're doing distance learning, I have a whole new way of teaching you, and I'm actually going to demonstrate for you everything that you have to do. First, I just want to introduce the lesson like I'm doing right now, and then we're going to switch to just me demonstrating. Now, I've prepared a series of handouts which I've made myself, just discussing what I think is important. And please forgive if there's any misspellings. And I did this one when Emma Watson was still popular, probably Harry Potter time. So I'm just going to read it to you. I will provide it to you as well in the links of the assignment, but you don't have to necessarily read it because I'm about to read it right now if you're paying attention to this lecture. Line. A line is an identifiable path created by a point moving in space. It is one-dimensional and can vary in width, direction, and length. Lines often define the edges of a form. Lines can be horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, straight, or curved, thick, or thin. How are lines used in art? When looking at an object, in order to define it on paper, you must first break it down into line. Any and every object can be separated into individual lines, which are then combined to form the whole object. Lines are usually placed at the edge of an object. When observing a line, you must be very attentive to the changes in direction. A line is not just limited to up and down and left and right. A line will curve any which way, and all of the changes in direction must be observed and taken into account. When thinking of all the possible directions a line can go in, consider a compass, and try to understand that a compass is not limited to just north, south, east, and west. Displayed here is a compass rose, showing more possibility of direction. When visually breaking down objects, you must consider and accept the fact that the lines curve and turn every which way. So you can see that the Emma Watson is broken down into line on the right, and you can do that with any drawing, really. Now, the first thing you have to do is using your ruler. And if you don't have a ruler, then you just have to take like a guess, okay? But you should have your ruler by now. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna mark the 1-inch line, line up your ruler with the edge of the paper. You're gonna mark the 3-inch line, the 5-inch line, and the 7-inch line. Now, let me tell you a little bit of what this assignment is about. This assignment is about teaching your eyes or training your eyes to follow lines. Let me just give you an example. If you're looking at a drawing of an eye, for instance, and you don't have to draw this. This is just an example for you guys, so you have an idea of what I mean. Let's say I asked you to draw that. So how would you start? That's the question. So starting, you'd have to take a look at the lines, right? How do you break this down into line? Well, there's a line right here, which is the first one I did. And if you were to start creating this drawing or recreating this drawing, you could start there. So when I said everything could be broken down into line, I meant it. And what's the next line? This line right here. So you would recreate that line right there. Well, what's the next line? Well, you could say, okay, well, the next line is kind of this circular line. This circular line, right? And then inside of that, and then that drawing of Emma Watson, it was kind of like this. Her figure, her pose or whatever she was doing, it was broken down into lines. And this is the first step into improving your drawing. Okay, where are the other lines? Right? There's a line over here like this. And a line under here. And then you have the lines that represent the eyelashes. So this assignment is all about being able to train your eye to see these lines. And then to start to break it down so you can recreate them. And that's the idea of what we're going to do. But first we have to prepare the paper. Usually in class, I will give you a paper, but we're not in class. So here, we are just preparing our paper to work. The next thing you want to do is, by putting your ruler at the end, and again, if you don't have a ruler, then you're going to have to kind of guess here. And we're going to mark off just 1 inch. Here's a quick tip. If you want a straight line and you have a sheet of paper, if you line up your ruler with the edge of the paper, that should give you a straight line. Okay? And we're just going to mark off every inch until we get to 10. And do that for every line. You have 4 lines total. If you find this too boring, just skip ahead until all the lines are done. But in class, I'm not going to skip ahead, okay? For those of you with a printer, I may provide just a copy of this already in the attachments so you can just print it out. And that way you don't have to do this step. For those of you without a printer, you're just going to have to do it the way that I'm doing it. There you go. So now what I want you to do next is I want you to darken these dots so we can see them clearly. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Now, every line has 10 dots. Remember that we grade on a 4-point grading scale, meaning that every one of these lines is going to be worth 1 point. I'll explain in more detail when I'm doing the assignment. There you go. Now that paper is fully prepped for the assignment, and now we'll actually begin the demonstration. So you're going to be provided with a handout like this in the attachments of this assignment. And I call this assignment the follow the line assignment. And like I've been saying, it's just to train your eye to follow lines. So you can see you have all of these lines. And you have these black dots in between this handout. These black dots coincide or should coincide perfectly with the paper that I just asked you to prepare. So this is exactly what you're going to do between the lines, all right? You are going to literally, this is line 1, line 2, line 3, and line 4. You're literally going to follow that line from dot to dot, and you are going to reproduce it the best that you can. I'm going to model 2 lines for you, the first one and the last one. It's not really necessary for me to model the middle 2, but I can do that too if you like. So what we're going to do is we're paying attention to every little curve. And if there's one curve, I only want one curve. And if there's more than one, then I know you weren't paying attention. Now, what good artists do is they constantly look back. You need to constantly be looking at your reference. This is called a reference, right? So in this class, constantly, we're going to be using references. And this is just the beginning. There are a few measuring techniques that we're going to get into, but how do you know how high to go with this? Well, you compare it to where the dots are. So if you see that this little lump doesn't go that much higher than the dot, then don't go that much higher. That's called relational proportion. So in the next little line here, like you need to understand that this pyramid right here, or this peak, needs to be higher than this curve and lower than this peak. That's also relational proportion. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do need to pay attention. And when you're making these lines, don't hold the pencil down to the paper, okay? If you hold the pencil down, our hands naturally shake all the time. So if you hold the pencil down to the paper, it's going to be hard to get a good line or to curve it the way that you need to. So you draw like this, right? In pieces, or you create your line in pieces. And if you need to curve that line, well, you start to curve it, kind of like that. You need to curve it down, you curve it down. And that's the idea. That's what we're doing here. So as I'm doing this, you can see that I'm kind of just drawing, not in one solid line, but I'm trying to pay attention to how the lines are curving, and then I'm matching that, all right? And I'm not going to be perfect here, but I'm going to try to get as close as I can. And I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm just asking you to try your best. And this is going to start training your eye to start seeing things in a little bit more detail. And I know you're not going to have this paper, but you are going to have the digital handout, and you could just follow along with that. And that should be enough. Or if you have a printer, you will have this paper if you can just easily print it out. And there you go. So I did that first line. I'm going to darken it so you can see it a little bit better on the camera. And you can see that now we can kind of solidify that line now that we've more or less drawn it out. And you could also see that, no, it's not perfect, but it's close. And that's what we're aiming for at this level. I'm going to do the last one because some students get intimidated by the last one, but it's all the same thing. So you have this, it kind of looks like a shark and 2 fish, but it's just one line. Let's follow the line. All right, now let's do that last one. And then I think that'll be it for this video. So we're gonna go up here, again, kind of not drawing in one solid line. Do it in pieces like that. And we're not aiming for perfection here, so don't get intimidated by this. And I'm constantly, you can't see my eyes right now, but I'm constantly looking back to see what the next direction is that I have to go in. I'm just gonna make my eye bigger, just for fun. And there you go. I can go ahead and darken it now, just so you can see it a little bit better. And again, you can see it's not perfect, but it's close. And that's what you want to do. Keep it close. Make sure that you're looking constantly back at how the lines are curving, twisting, and turning. Like I discussed when I read that handout, lines curve in every direction. You need to be able to identify those different curves and how they move if you're going to be successful. I really don't have to do the middle two lines for you guys. It's the same thing. And that's what you're going to do. Once you're done with this, you submit it. And this is going to be one of the 2 assignments for this week. So there you have it, guys. That's the first assignment. Like I said, we're starting very, very simple with just a simple line assignment. And we'll slowly get more and more complex as we move forward. Next week, we'll be doing an assignment on shape and how shape is used in art and how you can use shape kind of as a skeleton to build on. I'll see you in class. Go ahead and start working on these assignments and stay safe wherever you are. Bye.